Have you ever heard of those stories of people who rise to extreme popularity so quickly just to fall back down to earth a little while later? Someone who was adored in the public eye who, when their true colors emerged, became the subject of hate and scorn. The man we're talking about today fits that bill perfectly. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo had a steep rise in popularity during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, but today, members of his own state and own party are calling on him to resign immediately. What happened to Andrew Mark Cuomo? What's going on, fellas? And today I'm going to be diving deep into Andrew Cuomo and why his soaring popularity faded in an instant. About a year ago, everyone in New York adored him. Hell, people were calling on him to run for President of the United States. CNN even let his brother Chris Cuomo interview him for a little fun. But once the mask came off, the true colors of Andrew Cuomo were revealed. But before we dive into that, we need to take a look at his background and how he got into the situation he currently finds himself in. Andrew Cuomo was born on December 6, 1957, and was the son of future New York Governor Mario Cuomo, who held office for 3 terms in the 90s. He attended Fordham University in 1979 and Albany Law School in 1982. Cuomo had a knack for politics and even served as his father's campaign manager when he ran a successful campaign for New York Governor. Cuomo served as Assistant Secretary of Housing and Urban Development from 1993 to 1997, and from 1997 to 2001, he served in Bill Clinton's cabinet as the 11th United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. He actually ran for governor in 2002, but that went nowhere. He became New York Attorney General in 2007 and served until 2010. He was married in 1990 and divorced by 2005 and had 3 children. In 2010, he decided to give governor another shot and ran in the gubernatorial election where he faced off against Republican Carl Palladino, a Buffalo-based businessman who had been heavily supported by the controversial conspiracy theory-based Tea Party movement, which was founded off the basis of the principles of Sarah Palin back after she and John McCain failed to win the election of 2008. Cuomo had endorsements from the Independence Party and Working Families Party, while the Conservative Party and Taxpayers Party endorsed Palladino. In the end, it wasn't even close. Cuomo received 63% of the popular vote, which equaled nearly 3 million votes, while Palladino only received 33.5% of the popular vote, which equaled around 1.5 million votes. Cuomo didn't do much in his first 2 terms as governor. However, he signed ethics reform legislation, restructured New York's tax code, and introduced an active same-sex marriage bill with full bipartisan support. In 2019, Andrew Cuomo was at his lowest point as governor. His approval rating sat at 43%, with a whopping 50% said that they fully disapproved. That would change just a year later when the COVID-19 pandemic hit and Andrew Cuomo got straight to work. He criticized the federal government's response to the virus, calling it, quote, absurd and nonsensical, and his response efforts included a statewide lockdown and a complete shutdown of non-essential businesses in an effort to help flatten the curve of the virus. This is when Andrew Cuomo was at his highest. An astonishing 87% of New Yorkers approved of Cuomo's handling of the virus, and in the spring of 2020, people came up with the term Cuomosexuals. I kid you not, that was a real thing. To describe Cuomo's massive fans, mostly middle-aged moms, who admired his work during the pandemic. Cuomo's popularity was at an all-time high, and people were trying to get him to run for president, as the moderate Democratic candidate, Joe Biden, wasn't really cutting it at the time.
Are you now giving different consideration to running for president? No. So you are still not thinking.
But why?
Definitely a good question.
I'm a thinking being. I'm thinking about a lot of things.
I bet. Yeah. Are you not thinking about running for president because now there is more political momentum around the idea of you accepting a vice presidential bid from Joe Biden? Is that something that you're considering?
First of all, I'm glad to see you're feeling better. I can tell you're feeling better because your animation and I agree.
Answer whenever you like.
Joe Biden is a personal friend of mine. I worked with him. He's been a great friend to this state. I support him. I have for years, and he's going to be, I believe, an excellent Democratic candidate and a leader. Second, I have said repeatedly, my plan, when I said I wanted to run for governor, I said to the people of my state, I will serve as your governor. People asked me, well, would you run for president? I said no.
After the first wave of the virus flattened, Cuomo became very quiet again until the new year came, where everything came crashing down. On March 25, 2020, Cuomo and the New York State Department of Health issued an advisory warning requiring the admission of patients to nursing homes who tested positive for COVID-19 and barred testing for nursing home patients. This meant that the people who were infected by COVID-19 were being moved to nursing homes where older people who did not have COVID-19 could potentially be exposed. The order was revoked on May 10th after mass criticism from medical experts, and by then over 6,000 New York State nursing home residents had died from COVID. On January 28, 2021, an investigation was conducted by the State Attorney General Letitia James that concluded the Cuomo administration actually undercounted COVID-19 related deaths at those nursing homes by as much as 50%. This was when the first calls to rescind Cuomo's emergency powers, which were granted to him amidst the pandemic, were first being heard. There was once a fictional character who was given emergency powers during a crisis and abused them. Let's take a look at who that was. In February, the FBI announced that they were investigating the incident, but this was far from the worst for Andrew Cuomo. From December 13th to February 27th, 3 different women came forward claiming that the governor had either made inappropriate comments, touched them inappropriately, or even sexually assaulted them. The third woman claimed that Cuomo sexually harassed her and touched her without consent in her lower back area, but this accusation was different from the others. This one had a photo. Anna Rutch had attended a wedding reception in September of 2020 where she had a face-to-face meeting with Cuomo, and during that meeting, this photo was taken. You can clearly see that the recipient of whatever is going on here is not visibly comfortable. Clearly, there is some unwanted contact here. Over 20 different members of Congress, including both New York senators who are Democrats, have called for Cuomo to resign. Even President Joe Biden stated that if an independent investigation proved that Cuomo engaged in inappropriate conduct, that he should resign. Andrew Cuomo is currently in a place that he's never been in before. Every time he's found himself in trouble, he's always been able to find himself a way out, whether it's raising $140 million in relief funds for Hurricane Sandy and using $40 million to pay for TV ads promoting New York, or corruption allegations. Cuomo has always found a way to slip through the cracks. But this time, the walls are closing in on him, and it looks like there's no escape. A few days after the allegations were first reported, Cuomo did have a press conference where he had this to say about the allegations.
I want New Yorkers to hear from me directly on this. First, I fully support a woman's right to come forward. And I think it should be encouraged in every way. I now understand that I acted in a way that made people feel uncomfortable. It was unintentional, and I truly and deeply apologize for it. I feel awful about it, and frankly, I am embarrassed by it. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never touched anyone inappropriately. I never knew at the time that I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. I never knew at the time I was making anyone feel uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for whatever pain I caused anyone. I never intended it. And I will be the better for this experience. I'm not going to resign. I work for the people of the state of New York. They elected me, and I'm going to serve the people of the state of New York. And by the way, we have a full plate. We have COVID, we have recovery, we have rebuilding, we have a teetering New York City, we have a terrible financial picture, we have to do vaccines. So no, I'm going to do the job the people of the state elected me to do.
Andrew Cuomo is a prime example of what happens when the mask truly comes off, and all he can do now is just sit back until his time is up. Thank you all for taking the time out of your day to watch this. It is always greatly appreciated. I'll have links to my Twitter and my Discord server in the description below, and as always, I'll see you on the flip side.
Because people have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
Motherfucking boss.